Spirit warriors, have you ever felt like you walk into a room and the atmosphere changes even before you say a word? That's not your imagination. That's spiritual presence, and it's loud, even in silence. People stare, whisper, shift uncomfortably, or suddenly act overly friendly. It's as if your energy walks 10 steps ahead of you, announcing your arrival with a divine trumpet. And here's the truth. They're not just noticing you, they're spiritually obsessing over you. Your light, the result of your trials, faith, and transformation, is visible to those with open spiritual eyes, and even those who don't understand it feel it. You've become a mirror to the hidden lives of others, and that makes them uncomfortable, intrigued, or even fascinated. Consider this. There's documented psychological research that people can energy through body language, eye contact, and nonverbal cues. But spiritual presence takes it even deeper. It's like walking around with an invisible frequency dialed into heaven, and people can't figure out why they're drawn to you or intimidated by you. There's a story about a quiet young woman working a gas station counter. A complete stranger walked in, locked eyes with her for minutes, and said, "Well, you're not from here, are you?" That wasn't a pickup line, that was soul recognition. Chosen ones often trigger these moments because their energy doesn't match this world's chaos. It's calm in the storm, it's clarity in confusion. It's truth in a society drowning in illusion. People who don't even know your name sense something ancient and sacred about you. That's why they keep watching, questioning, and wondering how you move the way you do without losing your peace. They ask, what's their secret? But the real answer lies in your scars, your growth, and your alignment with something much higher. They're Googling your soul because your presence exposes their spiritual hunger. You awaken something buried in them, a memory of light, of purpose, of divinity. So no, you're not imagining things. You're different. And your difference is divine. That's why the whispers don't stop. That's why people act strange. You are the living proof that the spiritual realm is real. And now, it's time to understand why the world is so obsessed with your light. Let's dive deeper. Point 1, your energy enters before you do. Before you even say a word, spirit warrior, the atmosphere changes like a sudden hush before a sacred moment. You don't have to announce yourself because your very presence does the talking. Your energy isn't loud, it's legendary. You've been marked by divine alignment, and whether people are spiritually aware or not, they feel it. It's that unexplainable weight in the room when you enter, the sudden pause in conversation, the lingering glances, and the subtle shuffling like people are trying to recompose themselves around you. It's not ego, it's essence. You walk with the residue of battles won in silence and storms weathered without witnesses. This isn't about aura in the fluffy New Age sense, it's spiritual science. The human energy field is real. According to quantum physics, everything, including our bodies, emits an energetic frequency. The heart in particular produces an electromagnetic field that extends beyond the body and affects others up to several feet away. But what happens when that energy is anointed? When your frequency is aligned with divine purpose, your energy becomes revelatory. You're no longer just a person, you're a walking disruption to anything false. Your energy speaks a language most can't put into words. It says, I've seen the valley, I've faced the lion, I've survived the wilderness, and I still showed up in love. It's not the kind of power that demands the spotlight. It's the kind that outshines it. People can feel that you've walked through pain and turned it into purpose. They sense the fire, but not the burn. They sense peace, but not passivity. They know you've seen war, and yet you smile like heaven taught you how to hold a sword and a flower at the same time. So they stare, they wonder, they whisper. They create stories about you because they can't create a category for you. You break their mental mold. You challenge their assumptions. You awaken something in them they've buried under years of pretending. That's why the rumors start. She must be hiding something. He's too calm, too sure, too different. And you're hiding something. Not a scandal, but secrets, divine ones, hidden wisdom, pain-turned revelation. The kind of truth only found in the fire. Your influence doesn't come from followers or fame. It comes from your frequency. You don't chase attention, it chases you. You don't need to control the room because the room instinctively orbits around you. Your light triggers the shadows of others. That's why some are drawn to you like moths and others retreat like ghosts exposed to sunlight. You're a spiritual mirror, reflecting what people fear, hope for, and can't quite name within themselves. Your aura is an alarm clock for sleeping souls. Either they wake up or they walk away. And the wild part, you didn't ask for this, you were called to this. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every silent night when you prayed through tears, it all shaped your energy into this potent force of grace and grit. You are both sanctuary and storm, healing and holy disruption. You don't need to preach, post, or prove. Your silence says more than their noise ever could. Spirit warrior, understand this. The reason people act different around you isn't because you're too much. It's because you're exactly what they've been avoiding: truth, healing, accountability, and light. That's the cost of being divinely aligned in a world addicted to illusion. But it's also your power. Keep walking into rooms like you were sent, because you were. Keep shifting atmospheres like your spirit is the key, because it is. Keep carrying that divine frequency like a banner of fire. You're not just seen, you're sensed. You're not just heard, you're felt. And that, spirit warrior, is why the silence speaks so loud when you walk in. Point 2, your aura confuses and compels them. Your aura, oh, it's not just a vibe, it's an experience. A paradox wrapped in enigma, dipped in divine source like you were marinated in mystery by the Most High himself. You carry this peaceful stillness like a deep forest just before dawn, but let someone try you and suddenly you're an unshakable force of nature. That balance between softness and strength, compassion and boundary, is what keeps people doing double takes. You smile like the sun kissed your soul. And in the same breath, you can walk away like the Red Sea just parted and you're not looking back. That duality, that divine contrast, that's the stuff of legends. And it's why people find you so captivating and so confusing. See, we live in a world where people are constantly performing, oversharing, screaming for attention and validation, broadcasting every breath like it's breaking news. But not you. You live like a sacred mystery. You give the world just enough to admire, but never enough to own. You don't put your entire soul on display, and that's what makes people lean in closer. You're like a rare manuscript in a language only the wise can read, complex, ancient, and divinely preserved. While others are busy trying to trend, you're busy trying to stay aligned, and trust me, they feel that. Spiritually, what's happening here is that your energy field, your aura, is calibrated to a higher frequency. And yes, that's more than just a metaphor. According to metaphysical science and studies in quantum biology, every living being emits a frequency. The higher your internal state, gratitude, love, purpose, the higher your vibrational frequency. And you, chosen one, are out here vibrating on sacred wavelengths. You're not just walking through life, you're tuning the atmosphere. Anything not aligned with God's will, it glitches around you. People with hidden agendas suddenly fumble their words. Manipulators get exposed. Fake energy starts short-circuiting. Your aura doesn't allow darkness to hide. It demands clarity, whether they like it or not. You ever notice how people either want to follow you or fight you? That's not a coincidence. That's spiritual resonance. Your spirit is a frequency beacon, pulling in truth seekers while repelling pretenders. That's why strangers tell you their life stories and narcissists run from you like you've got holy fire in your pockets. You don't even have to say a word. Your presence alone calls things out. Your silence is prophetic. Your eyes, discernment tools, your posture, authority without the ego. And people don't know what to do with that. You're not aggressive, you're not loud, you just are, fully, humbly, and unapologetically. And let's talk about that walk, that stride that says, I've wrestled with angels and now I walk with God. The world sees it and whispers, who is this? You're not prideful, but you're also not passive. You don't puff up, but you don't shrink either. You're calibrated to heaven's rhythm, and anything offbeat can't dance with you. That's not arrogance, it's spiritual discipline. The confusion you cause, that's part of your calling. People need categories. They want to box you in. But you don't fit the mold because you were never made by man's hands. You're soft enough to comfort, but strong enough to confront. You're gentle, but your boundaries have teeth. That's what confounds people. They've never seen divinity carried with such quiet confidence. They've never witnessed grace with grit, mercy with muscle. So when you walk into rooms and people don't know whether to bow or back away, it's not you, it's your alignment. When they stare too long or suddenly switch up, know this: your aura triggered something. You reminded them of a higher version of themselves, a path they abandoned, a truth they ran from. And instead of asking how you got your light, they assume you must be hiding something. But what you're hiding, chosen one, is sacred. It's not meant for just anyone. That's what keeps your mystery divine and your influence untouchable. Because in a world that feeds on exposure, you're the holy exception, protected, anointed, and divinely encrypted, and that right there is what drives them wild. Point 3, you have the strength of a warrior and the heart of a healer. Here's the truth, raw and unfiltered. People don't just wonder what you did to become who you are. They sit back in awe, wondering how in the world you're still standing. Because when they see you now, calm, composed, glowing with inner peace, they have no idea about the storms that tried to tear you apart. They see the light, but they don't know the war. They don't see the nights you cried yourself to sleep with a pillow soaked in tears. They didn't witness the betrayals that shattered your heart like glass, or the friends who turned into ghosts when you needed them most. They weren't there when your knees hit the ground, trembling under the weight of grief, confusion, or despair. But God was, and it was His whisper, subtle, sacred, and steady, that kept your soul from unraveling completely. You made it. Not because you had it easy, but because you were held together by divine glue. And now you walk into rooms with an energy that doesn't need to announce itself. Your strength doesn't scream, it hums. It vibrates on a frequency so high, only the spiritually tuned in can recognize it. That glow people compliment, that survival, that smile they envy, it was forged in the fire. Your strength now speaks louder than your scars, and not because you've hidden the pain, but because you've transcended it. You're not just strong, you're spiritually armored. And that's a different kind of strength. That's not gym-built muscle or a bravado that masks insecurity, no. Your armor is forged in prayer, tears, surrender, and revival. You've learned that real strength isn't about avoiding the battle, it's about facing it with faith. Even when you're shaking, it's choosing love after betrayal. It's choosing to speak peace when your world felt like war. It's waking up and saying, God, I trust you, even when your circumstances don't make sense. But here's the twist, and the part that messes with people's heads. You didn't let the pain make you bitter. You didn't let the betrayal turn you cold. You're still loving, still kind, still the one who speaks life into others, even when they wouldn't have cared if you drowned. That's what makes you dangerous in the spirit realm. You're not just a warrior, you're a healer warrior. And that combo, oh, it confuses both demons and doubters, because most people break under that kind of pressure. They build walls so high that no one gets in. But you built boundaries, not barriers. You became wiser, not colder. People can't wrap their minds around how you carry peace like a dove and protection like a lion. That contradiction, that quiet power mixed with open-heartedness. That's not human strategy, that's the hand of God all over you. You reflect divine paradox. You're soft but not weak, gentle but not naive, forgiving but no longer blind. You love deeply, but you no longer tolerate nonsense. And that balance, that sacred spiritual calibration, is why people don't know whether to fear you, admire you, or follow you. Spoiler, it's usually all three. What you've developed, consciously or not, is what psychologists call resilient empathy. It's the rare ability to still care about others without sacrificing yourself in the process. And spiritually speaking, it's even deeper. It's the fruit of long seasons with God, where your roots dug deep even when the surface looked barren. You learn to flourish in drought, to praise in pain, and to trust in silence. So when people stare, whisper, or get oddly defensive around your presence, it's not arrogance that surrounds you, it's anointing. And it makes people check their spirit, whether they know it or not. You are living proof that God's grace doesn't just rescue, it restores, refines, and then radiates. You didn't just survive, you transformed. And now you walk through life with a power that can't be explained, only experienced. Point 4, your silence is louder than their noise. You don't argue, you don't explain, you don't defend, you just fall back and elevate. And that, chosen one, is precisely what's making people spiral into confusion. In a world where everyone is fighting to be heard, desperate to be seen, and addicted to validation, your silence is not just rare, it's revolutionary. Most people operate on noise, defending their worth, explaining their moves, and reacting to every jab like a puppet on strings. But you move with divine restraint. You don't entertain chaos. You don't perform for clout. You don't dance in the circus of approval. You simply rise, quietly, steadily, and powerfully. This is what's tripping people out. They're used to drama being met with more drama, disrespect being met with confrontation, and rumors being answered with receipts. But when you go silent, intentionally silent, the atmosphere shifts. Your absence becomes louder than their accusations. Your stillness becomes more compelling than their spectacle. Your refusal to react doesn't come from weakness. It comes from mastery. See, spiritual maturity isn't about proving a point. It's about knowing you don't have to. When you know who you are, whose you are, and what you're called to, arguments become noise. You start recognizing that peace is more precious than being right, and clarity is louder than any clapback. Here's the psychology of it. Silence makes the human brain uncomfortable. We're wired to fill in gaps. When someone doesn't respond, our mind creates stories. It seeks closure. It assumes meaning. That's why your quiet departure, your lack of retaliation, and your gentle withdrawal, it messes with people. They need an answer, and your refusal to provide one becomes the loudest response of all. That's power, that's control, that's spiritual discipline. And that right there is why your silence triggers chaos in others. Your silence isn't empty, it's sacred, it's not passive, it's a conscious act of self-preservation and strategy. It's the realization that energy is currency, and you're no longer spending yours on bankrupt conversations. You've evolved past the need for loud victories. You understand that God fights your battles better than any comment thread ever could. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you unforgettable. While others burn out trying to prove their power, you recharge in your stillness and let your growth do the talking. In spiritual traditions around the world, silence is considered holy. The desert fathers of early Christianity would retreat into the wilderness not to escape, but to encounter, to hear the voice of God without the noise of the world. In Eastern philosophy, silence is the gateway to enlightenment, the space where clarity and wisdom are born. In psychology, mindful silence is used in therapy to heighten self-awareness and emotional regulation. You're not just being quiet, you're stepping into ancient wisdom. You're honoring a practice that transcends cultures and time. And here's the divine irony. The quieter you become, the more your presence is felt. You become that mysterious force in the room that doesn't need to boast to be noticed. People start whispering about your elevation even when you haven't said a word. Your detachment becomes a mirror. It exposes what's fragile in others, their need for attention, their addiction to approval, and their reliance on chaos to feel important. You become the calm in their storm, and instead of celebrating that, they feel threatened by it. But don't shrink. Keep falling back and rising higher. You're operating on a frequency that noise can't reach. Your stillness isn't stagnation, it's ascension. While they panic about your next move, you're outgrowing the entire battlefield. You're not here to be loud, you're here to be legendary. And legends, chosen one, don't need to explain. They simply exist, and the world adjusts around their presence. Point 5. Your elevation is exposing their limitations. When you rise, chosen one, you become more than just a success story. You become a mirror. And that mirror, it doesn't lie. It reflects truth in ways that make people uncomfortable. It shows them not just who you've become, but who they could have been if they had moved in obedience like you did. Your growth becomes a silent spotlight, casting light on their shadows, on their procrastination, their fear, and their compromise. It's not that you've changed into someone boastful or arrogant. On the contrary, your rise has been quiet, consistent, and fueled by purpose. But even your quiet obedience is loud to someone who's been ignoring their own divine instructions. See, people love comfort. They get used to a certain rhythm of life. They talk big dreams, but when the time comes to sow in silence, to hustle in humility, to trust when there's no evidence, they freeze. You didn't? You built when no one was clapping. You kept praying when nothing made sense. You chose obedience over approval, focus over fame, and process over shortcuts. And now that the fruit is beginning to show, it's shaking up everything they thought they knew. It's not that they dislike you, it's that your evolution reminds them of every moment they ignored their own. Here's the thing, human psychology is wired with something called cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort experienced when one's actions don't align with their beliefs or goals. When people see you rising after years of dedication, it forces them to face the gap between what they said they wanted and what they actually did about it. That kind of inner conflict is intense. And instead of confronting it, some take the easy road. They whisper, they throw shade, they act distant. It's easier to label your confidence as cocky than to admit their own insecurities. Easier to say you've changed than to admit they haven't. But here's what's wild. Your success wasn't meant to provoke shame, but to inspire. Your life is a blueprint of what's possible when someone walks with God and doesn't quit. You're proof that faith and focus can move mountains, that stillness can be strategic, that seasons of obscurity are preparation, not punishment. And while some may resent that reflection, others will awaken because of it. They'll stop settling, start healing, and begin their own rise, all because you had the courage to go first. In biology, this concept exists too. It's called homeostasis, a system's tendency to resist change and return to its previous state. People are systems, friend groups, families, and communities. They all have a certain norm they try to maintain. When one person begins to change, to evolve spiritually, emotionally, or even financially, it disrupts the balance. Suddenly, everyone else is forced to reassess. Your rising doesn't just affect you, it shifts the entire atmosphere. It's uncomfortable, it's challenging, and for some it's a reason to retreat or rebel. But don't you dare dim yourself to make others feel comfortable in their delay. There's also a spiritual law at play here. What you sow in secret, God rewards in the open. That's not for clout, it's for confirmation. It's His way of saying, I saw the tears, I saw the discipline, I saw the obedience. Now watch me elevate you. And that elevation, chosen one, is divine. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't beg for applause. It simply happens. And when it does, it speaks louder than any shade, louder than any whisper. So keep rising, keep reflecting, not to shame anyone, but to shine. Because someone out there isn't just watching, they're waking up. And your mirror, it's showing them what's possible when you stop shrinking and start stepping into purpose. Let them talk, let them wrestle, but never stop being the light that exposes, elevates, and ignites. That's your calling, that's your power. Point 6, you carry a divine assignment. They can't copy. You're not trending, you're chosen. And in a world that worships virality and craves clout, there's something deeply unsettling, even intimidating, about someone who doesn't move with the crowd, but moves by divine instruction. You see, trends come and go. They're designed for short-term attention, quick applause, and fast fades. But being chosen, that's eternal, that's sacred, and that's why no one can duplicate your vibe. They can mimic your style, borrow your slang, and even replicate your rhythm. But they'll never carry your oil, because your essence doesn't come from aesthetics or algorithms. It comes from alignment, divine alignment. Here's the thing people forget. Purpose and performance look similar on the surface. Both can shine, both can attract, but purpose sustains, performance exhausts. You've got people studying your every move, not because they want to support you, but because they want to be you, or at least figure out your formula. But what they're missing is that there is no formula. You're not operating off a blueprint you found on Pinterest or some motivational thread. You're operating off spiritual coding, God's unique fingerprint on your life. That's why you walk the way you do, speak the way you do, and radiate the way you do. It's not something you turned on for show. It's something heaven activated in you. Let's take it even deeper. In the Old Testament, the anointing oil was reserved for those set apart, kings, priests, and prophets. You couldn't just pour oil on yourself and call it divine. It had to be appointed, not self-assigned. In the same way, your anointing, your calling, and your spiritual vibe can't be self-generated or duplicated. It was poured by God for a mission only you can fulfill. That's why others can wear the same clothes, speak in your tone, and even steal your ideas, but it never lands the same because they're performing. You're walking in power, and power doesn't beg to be seen. It just is. That's why even in silence, you're loud. Even in humility, you're noticeable. And that confuses people. They're used to clout chasing and noise making, the kind of attention that burns fast. But you're the slow burn, the sacred flame, the light that doesn't flicker in chaos. And that stability, that peace, that authenticity, it's magnetic. They try to figure it out. But here's what they don't realize. God put a seal on you. A spiritual seal isn't just a stamp of approval. It's a divine locking mechanism, a supernatural encryption that makes your purpose secure and uncopyable. In ancient times, a king's seal on a scroll meant the contents inside were protected, official, and not to be tampered with. That's you. God sealed your calling. That seal is a spiritual password, a frequency only you can operate on. So let them study. Let them try to decode your movements. They'll never access the oil that runs through your spirit because it wasn't meant for them. It was handcrafted, heaven approved, and soul deep. Social media may not have you trending, but heaven does. The angels recognize your name. The Spirit confirms your steps. And the enemy? He's not confused, he's threatened because you're not in this for applause, you're in this for impact. You're not chasing platforms, you're carrying purpose. And that's why they can't replicate you. Your power doesn't live in your profile, it lives in your obedience, in your alignment, in your yes to God. So keep walking in it, chosen one. Let them watch, let them wonder. But never water yourself down to fit their formula. You're not a copy, you're the original manuscript, sealed, sent, and stamped by heaven. Point 7, your light both heals and reveals. Here's the ultimate reason they're crazy for you, and it's not because of your looks, your status, or even your talent. It's because your light is medicine, but it's also a magnifying glass. When people come into your presence, something deep shifts within them, often without a single word exchanged. You're like spiritual penicillin to the wounded soul. Your energy soothes, your smile uplifts, your presence heals. But here's the twist. While your light comforts, it also confronts. It makes people see themselves, not the version they post online, but the raw, unfiltered truth they've tried to avoid. Psychologists have studied this very phenomenon, the mirror effect. When someone lives authentically, it naturally triggers self-reflection in others. Your faith, your consistency, your quiet discipline. It all becomes a mirror to those who've been hiding behind excuses, fear, or self-sabotage. You don't have to preach, you are the sermon. You don't have to expose anyone. Your purity does that just by existing. You make people feel safe and seen, but also vulnerable and unsure. Why? Because they realize how far they've drifted from their own truth. And your light makes that impossible to ignore. It's the divine dilemma of being chosen. Some will flee from you, unsettled by what you unknowingly reveal. Others will cling to you, hungry for the clarity you bring. Either way, no one leaves your presence the same. You are both the healing and the heat, the salve and the spotlight, the calm in the storm and the storm to their complacency. And that chosen one is your divine power and their divine discomfort. Chosen one, there's something about you that stirs curiosity and even confusion in others, and it's no coincidence. They're wondering who you are because your identity has already been confirmed in the spiritual realm. Heaven has marked you. You didn't climb to this level by chance. You rose through obedience, through silent battles no one saw, and through unwavering faith in what God whispered to your heart. While others followed the crowd, you followed the call. That's what's causing the stir. They can't figure out how you keep showing up, how you shine so brightly despite the storms you've endured. It's not just talent, charisma, or effort. It's divine favor. And that's something the world can't quantify. They're obsessed with what you did because it worked. Your prayers, your tears, your sacrifice, your refusal to quit, it all bore fruit. And now that you're walking in alignment with God's plan, you're glowing with a light that exposes their own insecurities. Let them wonder, let them talk, let them invent stories to fill the blanks they'll never truly understand, because your journey isn't meant for their approval, it's meant for their observation. Like Joseph in Egypt or David before Goliath, your life is a testimony, not a debate. So walk boldly, spirit warrior, stay grounded in the truth. Shine even when they can't handle the brightness. You don't owe the world explanations for your anointing. What you carry is not for convincing, but for revealing. And every step you take is part of a revelation that will unfold in due time. Keep going, chosen one. Heaven is still writing your story, and what's ahead is far greater than what's behind. Your mission is sacred, and your presence is powerful. The world will understand later. Right now, just keep walking in your purpose.